and you will hear about that too. And the sale of passport and diplomatic passport, these are continuing to be, talk in the media around the place, and we're being looked at based on our behavior and the lack of due diligence and transparency in relation to our passport, and we'll talk about that too. The 2017-2018 national budget is due to go before Parliament. We'll talk about it as well. And just to tell you, this government are always late on this national budget presentation and debate. During the time of the Freedom Party, you would have this somewhere in June, so by the time halfway July, in most cases, it is done, the debate is done, and ready to go. In fact, the financial year ends on the 30th of June, and it's commenced on the 1st of July of each year. So it seems that, in fact, the financial year have ended because June have gone long, and we're the 19th of July. So we'll talk about that as well. Let's say good evening to Dr. Christian. He's already in studio. Dr. Christian, good evening.
Good evening also, and happy Wednesday to you. Happy Wednesday to all listeners out there in Q95 land. It's a wonderful day, a little passing tropical something. Is it a depression? A little rain, but that cannot damp down our enthusiasm and our excitement to be again there with you, inviting us into your living rooms and your bedrooms and on the roadsides, listening to Q95, getting educated and enlightened and encouraged about the situation here in Dominica. I want to give a shout out especially to Julia Anselm. Her birthday today, Julia in East Canefield. I want to say hello to Melvina in Point Michelle. Melvina out there, also Barity and Fiola, our neighbors out there in Point Michelle. I want to say hello to Bill and Q and Eunice in Scott's Head. I want to say hello to Clement Dover right there in Bath Road, security man, a great listener of the program and gives constant feedback. Algernon Filbert out there in the valley, my good friend Arthur Smith with the credit union movement. I want to say hello to Celia Augustine in Portsmouth. I want to say hello to Cameron Mitchell in Tarish Pit, Fat Boy, and Ruthan, and all the other patriots out there in D.D. Lane Goodwill, Inspector Edmond Daru, our distinguished and learned attorney, David Bruni. I want to say hello. I want to say hello to Father Reggie, Father Brankett John. I want to say hello to Pastor Randy Rodney, and all the other pastors. I want to say hello to Benji out there in Soufriere, and all the other people of faith who are beginning and continuing to think of their ministry to the country and to the community in which you live, and not just thinking of the hereafter, but thinking about the here and now and how we as believers and as people of conscience can change things here in Dominica. So I want to give a shout out to all you good people, Didi Esther in the United States, Dr. Emmanuel Finn. I want to say hello to George Irvin Andre out there in Canada, and my good friend Hendrik Spear in England. All over the globe, Dominicans far and wide are listening to Q95, listening to Freedom and You, giving us good feedback. Listen, this is your program, so don't hesitate to, get in touch with us. Tonight we're doing something a little different. Juliet is not in today, she's in Granby, and Juliet usually has us on Facebook Live, but if you want to see us, you can tune in on the Q95 website, and on the right of the screen you'll see the YouTube link, and there you click on that, you'll see live video, so you can see us big and bright and in color, probably a little better than on Facebook. And I'll give a little wave to you every now and then, and you can message us, and my message number there, my number is 265-0886. You can reach me at any time, 24/7. I'm your doctor. I help you with any kind of medical questions that you have, but you can message me tonight. Let me know that you're listening, let me know that you're locked in, and let's get this show on the road. Bosso.
Yes. Okay, and we also want to say hello to Crispin Gregoire in New York. We want to say good evening to Ken Vital out there in out of state. We say good evening to him. And of course, well, you mentioned Juliet is not with us tonight, but of course, you know she's always missed when she's not there. But of course, we know that there are times when you cannot be. Okay, so we extend our heartfelt sympathy to the relatives, friends, children, and all of the late Mr. Ducre.
We have a little technology going on, but I just want to say that the Honorable N.A. Ducre, he was the power of my little sister. And I remember the days of my youth when he was Minister of Trade and Production, and a distinguished gentleman who has served the country for a long time. And also his son, Glenn, my roommate, Glenn Ducre. Glenn.
And Dexter.
Yes.
And all of the rest of the Ducre family. So we want to again extend our heartfelt sympathy to them. And well, he got a very good send-off today. And,
are you in your uniform?
I was there. I'm still in my
funeral attire.
Well, outfit. Not, I don't really call it funeral. My outfit.
So like a royal purple there, boss.
And I must say the camaraderie that surrounded the funeral, particularly after the mass inside of the Cathedral Chapel. And you know, you met persons, you speak with them outside, and you know, and so forth. I think the preaching was quite uplifting, and it went back to a few political history, and in terms of how politicians dealt before, in terms of the camaraderie that existed, whether you are in this party or in the other party.
And also we're bringing that back, aren't we?
Yes, and that came up today in the preaching, and it was quite elevating. And I think it was well attended by government officials. The Prime Minister was there, the President and ministers were there. Also the members of the parliamentary opposition were in attendance, and I was there as well. And I understood that Daryl Teat was reporting somewhere, I don't know where, I didn't hear him myself, but I was called early on and told so, but he was reporting on what was on the event. For example, when you remember when the late Frank Barron passed, I was assisting another radio station
live broadcast,
and I mentioned everyone who was there, ministers, Prime Minister, President. I mentioned it was Eisenhower Douglas and myself, and we mentioned the members of the opposition and everybody else, that his family, his children, his wife, and his grandchildren. We mentioned that so that people know exactly what was taking place, and prominent people in the community, you mentioned them, and even ordinary persons who came in there and who were close with him, you also mentioned them to say, well, this gentleman, well, he may not be in the high ranking of society, but he was a good friend of the deceased, and so on. So this is how you go, because you have to create that level of unity, around persons who are grieving. And I understood that Daryl Teat said the Prime Minister was there, the President, and all the ministers he mentioned, but he did not mention the members of the parliamentary opposition.
Is that right?
And I think this is a shameful behavior, and I think when you're in the media and you're reporting to inform people, you do not report biasly. You have to report factually on what is on the event happening, because I find our country have gone petty those days, and unless we can get these petty behaviors reversed, then we can just find ourselves continuing to dig ourselves into shameful holes.
Well, let me stop right there and tell you, boss, so let me give you your flowers right now. And that is one of the things that I admire about this party, and I admire about you in particular. The way that you're such a gentleman, and you reach out to everybody on the political spectrum. You are a decent, honest, hardworking person, and you're basically immune, to the kind of bribery and corruption that is so rampant, so has overtaken Dominic in a big way. And that's why I feel so much at home in the Dominica Freedom Party. And I was telling you at our meeting yesterday that I grew up in the Labour Party family. As you know, my uncle Henkel Christian was the Deputy Prime Minister with Patrick John. And my parents were staunch Labour Party people. Gabriel and myself were very strong Labour people with Rosie Douglas and Pierre Charles, my classmate. However, things have changed. Things have changed, and all for the worse, it would seem. And what I do remember as a child was that although my parents, they had that level of intelligence and openness to recognize that Miss Charles was a very distinguished attorney, and they secured her services for a traffic accident that we had with a police officer, and she just basically destroyed the police officer in court. She proved that he was driving on Christmas Eve, rushing down to take a Christmas present to his girlfriend in St. Joseph when she collided with my brother. May he rest in peace. Former husband of Alicia Jean-Jacques, principal of the Dominica Grammar School. And you know, in no time she dismantled the prosecutor's case. And we have always honored Miss Charles. Even as Labourites, we've always honored her in her family. And although my brother, because of his labor background, had some difficulty with the Freedom Party government, he thinks he still came and wrote that book on Miss Charles, Mamo, The Life and Times of Mary Eugenia Charles. So this is the kind of thing that we want to bring back in a big way in Dominica. We want to bring back civility. We want to bring back decency and decorum. And I think your attendance of the funeral this afternoon is symbolic of that in a very big way. And let's people, all of us, let's pull together and let's make this country great again.
Yes, because I'm still here. He received, I think he received an official funeral. The official funeral, yes, he received. And usually when you have an official funeral for persons who have served in Parliament or the public service, or at this level, you invite as many persons as possible who were in Parliament or in the public service to attend, because you should have that list, and protocol dictates that you do that, particularly if it's a former member or a serving member of Parliament. And I did not see an invitation to myself. I don't know if people like Sir Brian Arlene and Henry George and these people received an invitation to attend the funeral. But this is where we unite together and stand behind our people when, you know, they're grieving,
of course,
the loss of a loved one and so on. And we should not make everything partisan politics, you know, because in fact, a lady she was talking, not to me, but I overheard that she was talking about politics, and another one then close to me engaged me about it, and I said, this is almost like a seasonal thing, but friendship is a lifetime thing. So if you're a friend of a person, irrespective what party they support, this is your friend, or they may have like a political exchange now and then, but it should not go beyond just discussion, you know, and being able to understand what your side is about and what my side is about, and so forth. And
I'll just add that, and that is why so many people across this blessed land wept when you were arrested, because people would say, Bosso, you know, Bosso, such a nice man, such a gentleman. What are you arresting the man for so early in the morning? And some of my patrons said they wept too, but I think I heard more of an outpouring for you, and we want to continue to highlight that restoration of decency and democracy in Dominica. Don't we, Michael?
Yes. So let's say welcome to Michael. Michael.
Yes, and let me say good evening to our listeners. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, Sam, I think we need to basically have respect for one another, despite our difference of opinion on matters and our difference of opinion on our party position. Okay, the Freedom Party is one who believes in, you know, enabling people to earn an income and to be independent. You have the Labour Party is far left, and they tend to have social programs which, you know, don't build up people's independence and need to be self-sustaining and independent. So, you know, despite those differences, we have to have respect for one another, and that is one of the biggest problems that we face. but it is because some politicians or individuals believe if they divide and rule,
Yes,
they're better
yes.
off, okay? And to just every day just go on the radio and destroy people's personality or attempt to do that. And that is one of the things that we've stood against, and we are making strides, because whenever I ask questions on matters, I try to deal with it very respectfully.
Of course.
And I am respected for that. And Johnson, the same way, and yourself. So I think it's the only way you can be in a society like Dominica. It's a small society, we all know each other, and there must be mutual respect.
I mean, and that's what our faith requires. I don't care what denomination you may belong to, or no denomination at all. Somewhere along the line we have heard, mourn with those who mourn. And I think that's what we do. And for every single person who stands up in public life, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you are, there's a cost, there's a personal cost. You're going to take blows, you know, you're putting yourself out there for service. So we respect that, you know, good or bad or indifferent. And so we honor the man for his service to Dominica, Minister of Trade and Production, the Honorable N.A.N. Ducre.
Well, one thing I could say about him, though, he supported the Labour Party even to his death. And he would call the radio and defend, and, you know, the Prime Minister and the party. But when we would meet, we always exchange very cordial, you know, words, and he always expressed, I heard you on the radio and I find you were quite good in your comments and so on. And in fact, in the cemetery, somebody was saying, and his name came up in those days of persons who were, if you like, powerful public speakers. He ranked in that top order, and Elkin Henry, deceased from Maho, Frank Byron, deceased himself, and in those days. And I think up to his last time on earth, when you listen to him, you can get the, you know, the how he put his words together, how he pronounced his words, how he come out, and so forth. And I think he was very articulated and so on. So to say he got a very, very good send-off, and I saw Glenn, and I did not reach close to Ducre, but I saw him as well, and the rest of the children there, and I think they all felt happy about the send-off he got, and so on. Okay, we also extend sympathy to the family of Roland Robert Goodwill, and we shared that last week, and to all those who lost loved ones the past week. I understand that Reuben Bakery, gentleman who owned Reuben Bakery, I understand he passed.
I grew up in Didier Lane next to Mr. Reuben, and I just was there this afternoon, so I want to give a shout out to Ma Reuben, Louisa, and her sisters, her wonderful sisters, Alice, Mary, Dora, and my sister-in-law, Mary, married to my brother Lawson in Hampstead, New York. So our condolences go out to him. He's a patient of mine, and we did our best for him. He fought a good fight, and he finished the faith. And all the members of the church who came out regularly to pray with him and to support him. But most of all, you know, his gift to Dominica, Reuben's bread, you know, good stuff. And we knew him as a child. We worked in Tarish Pit before there were houses there as a heavy equipment operator, caterpillar driver, a young, robust man, I think from St. Vincent. But he was very close to our hearts, loved him dearly, and he has made a lasting impact on all who knew him.
Yes. Okay, I just received a WhatsApp message from Francis Joseph. He was supposed to be with us here, but he was out of town and just got back into town, and he may be late, or if unable to come to the studio, he will come from his home. He said about 8:30, so in a few minutes' time. But Francis, we are glad you being here on your own business, but you take part in what is happening, because, as you know, sometimes you go away for opportunities, but your heart's always back home, and that goes for you too, Francis. Okay, well, our delegates convention is set for the 6th of August, Sunday the 6th of August. It will start at 3 p.m. and will take place at the Dominica Public Service Union conference room upstairs at the back of the building. So we just want to inform delegates all over the country and those special invitees that the convention is on the 6th of August and will take place from 3 p.m. at the Dominica Public Service Union conference room upstairs at the back of the building. So we look forward to people who have the responsibility of send the names, and let us get this thing on the road. So at that convention, we will have it in 2 parts. We're going to have what we call an opening session, and that opening session will hear addresses from the current party leader, a youth representative, followed, and we'll have our keynote speaker, who is Mr. Crispin Gregoire, former Dominican ambassador,
His Excellency,
to the United States, to the United Nations, His Excellency Crispin Gregoire. So he'll be the keynote speaker there. That will be very interesting, and we are saying to Dominicans, stay tuned, and those who will be at the convention, you will be participating in something great, something awesome. You will hear where we're at. Yes, we have gone through our struggle as a party, because that's what a democracy provides and offers. And you just have not to get angry, but build up and work. It may take you some time, work hard, and put things in place. And I think the results are falling in place.
Amen, bro.
Therefore, we will have the convention, yes, and to say to the rest of the country that this is a day to focus on, and stay tuned, because I think you will hear some good stuff from our current party leader, Mr. Michael Astafan. I will be also making a presentation as the chairman of the convention, and a youth representative, and then the keynote address. And from there we'll break into what we call the business session, where we'll have our reports and so on being looked at, and it will follow by election of our political leader. And we have Dr. Christian in the race. You know, Dr. Christian is a medical doctor. He's here serving the Dominican public, private practice, and so forth. And we have Mr. Ken Vital, who's an economist. He worked at the Caribbean Development Bank lately. Before that, he was at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. He worked at the local NDC, and in fact, he was the first executive director when it turned from NDC to Invest Dominica, and so on. I mean, now he's a consultant, and he worked for the Bellis government, the Dixon Kickers government, and so forth, and even the CDB itself. So he will be another candidate. And then we'll have election for chairman, deputy chairman, secretary, treasurer, assistant secretary, assistant treasurer, and so forth. So we'll put this team in place, and we'll take it from there to start what we call the real work to get the party as a, vibrant and on the move, as a viable alternative to again govern the affairs of our country.
Yes, indeed. And Kent, I want to give him a special shout out again. Extremely talented and experienced, and you know, I look forward to the day, and it's coming closer with each passing day, where we will have someone like him who has that kind of experience, that is giving that wisdom and knowledge to the area governments, that Dominica government will be able to benefit from that, and we can stimulate our economy. So we are looking forward for Kent to be in a position of influence, so that we can utilize his skills to really jumpstart the Dominican economy. This is talent on display, my friends. So mark that date, August 6th. It's going to mark a tremendous turnaround in the fortunes of Dominica.
Okay, so the work continues, and we look forward to a successful delegates convention. Now we continue to visit the constituencies, and we have been to a few areas and have spoken and gathered names of persons who will attend, but we'll continue to do that until the 6th of August. So again, it's August 6th, that's Sunday, and the following day is August Monday, so you have no real issue of work the next day. So because you have the August Monday, which is a holiday, so therefore if you out on Sunday, you can have some rest on Monday if you do not want to go to the beach on Monday. So that's August 6th from 3 p.m. at the Public Service Union Conference Room upstairs. Okay, so we look forward to a very powerful convention.
Don't forget to look up to the camera there from time to time. We've got people listening in on YouTube. Once again, I've got a number of feedback. Q95 website, go to the YouTube link on the right and click on the live video. You'll see Bosso, Michael Asafan, and myself bringing you some really positive and powerful vibes.
Yes. Okay, so hurricane tips. Well, basically, we're in the hurricane season, and we just want you to stay alert and make sure that you pay attention to the advisory, to the information given to you on the various radio stations. And we want the disaster preparedness people to engage every media house so that people, wherever they go, television, radio, newspaper, they can see and they can be informed, because you have to be well informed about what is happening. I listened to Grenada, and they had some system threatening, and the information that they gave was so solid. So solid, because we've had experience of David and experience of Hurricane Arlene, Marilyn, Louise, and what was the other one? Marilyn, Louise, and Irish. Then we've had recently Tropical America, and so we know, and therefore we cannot prevent a disaster in terms of if it's coming, we can't say don't come, and so on, but we can prepare ourselves to kind of,
minimize the impact.
Prevent and to minimize the impact on us as human and on our property as well.
On that note, we should give a shout out to Cecil Schlingford.
Yes, I was
just listening on the news that he had this trainers conference, and a number of Dominicans attended that conference and are trained now to train others in disaster response and hazardous material management and CPR and all those kinds of things. So Cecil, keep up the good work, and you represent us well.
And I should say though, you see, you have to take away the politics, the partisan politics from our human talents.
Indeed.
And ensure that they are placed where they are best able to serve, and to ensure that our people are informed. And I want to say hats off to Cecil in his field, and to the rest of the team in the disaster preparedness coordinating office. Now, talked on health tip. I don't know where Redis is. If Redis, I got the impression Redis is still around. And
it's still around, and as a matter of fact, the folks out there at the Social Center, St. Anne's Day Nursery, where my little fella, Kalen Christian, is a student or daycare person out there, and also Red Eye did make a hit over there. Auntie Judith and Sulan and Mala and all the other good people. Norma, those are Norma Serial's people. So I want to give a shout out to Norma Serial, who has done sterling service out there at the Social Center, managing all its programs and activities. So yes, Red Eye has, I think it has crested, and I'm speaking not with the latest information or data, but the number of individuals with Red Eye, we see less, it's declining. And it's compared to chikungunya and Zika and all those, it's a milder disease. It's ugly when your eyes are red and crusting and feels like sandpaper and barbed wire, as other people describe it. But we get over it within a week, within a few days, especially if you have the medication prescribed by the doctors. Chloramphenicol ointment. I think that the pharmacies ran out of the chloramphenicol eye drops, but the ointment works just as well, although it's a little bit less comfortable on the eye, kind of. But most of the people have managed that quite well and returned to the workforce within a week. So hopefully Red Eye will be out of our here, so to speak, within a month.
Are there any other health situation we should be concerned about?
Well, basically, as we always remind the folks, to get their health checks, especially the three major ones: the mammograms, the pap smears, the PSAs, and the prostate examinations. And we want to encourage our men, brother, you know, they're kind of skittish about that. They generally don't like to be, you know, examined in that area, but we need to do it. My father had prostate cancer, 2 uncles had prostate cancer. I feel like there's a bullseye on my back. So I have to do what I have to do, and I have to remind my brothers, hey, you know, half of the year is past, let's make sure we've got that done. And so every patient who steps into the office will get a cancer screening test, and will be encouraged, you know, to utilize the services of the oncology clinic at the hospital and the Dominica Cancer Society. And again, we remember Claudette Emmanuel, who we lost a few weeks ago, a wonderful, sterling supporter, even in a long-time survivor. She was always there to stand and to support other people who contracted the disease. So not only that, we want to make sure we get our blood sugar checked. Ladies and gentlemen, the hemoglobin A1C, just tell your doctor, I want to get that A1C done. That A1C test is a little more sophisticated than just a finger stick blood sugar. It will tell you how close you are to getting diabetes. There are people listening to my voice right now who will be diagnosed as diabetics before the end of the year. And if there's something that we can do, and if there's somewhere we can know how close we are to becoming diabetic, then we can take the necessary precautions. And diabetes, once you have that, is something that you can manage with lifestyle and so forth. And it's one of the most common things. Also, one of the things that we constantly have to remind patients about is your blood pressure medication. Blood pressure medication. Blood pressure, the main cause of heart attacks and strokes, and kidney failure as well. And we have an increasing number of people being on dialysis. You would very much like to avoid having dialysis if you can. Furthermore, people who are on dialysis have a much shortened lifespan. So you've got to keep the blood pressure under control. And every day, I have to tell patients to renew their blood pressure medication. We have a little bit of a problem in Dominica with folks not wanting to take their medication, and they want to take Bush and Veven and all that. Those things are very helpful. I endorse them. I endorse that message. But don't do it just saying that take this is good for that. You have to take it and measure your blood pressure, monitor it. If it is not helping, then you need to be doing something else. So there are people who are on multiple blood pressure medications. Some people are on 5 or 6 medications just to keep their blood pressure down. They don't like it, but what is the option? Boom, you know, your head blows off with a stroke and you're disabled. You get a heart attack and you drop dead. And so we want to avoid that stuff. And unfortunately, because of the high incidence of processed food and salt in our diet, we have much more heart attacks and strokes than we did when we were growing up. So if we do those basic things, half of all the diseases that we treat in doctors' offices and the hospitals can be taken care of. So let's stay on the ball, take care of our loved ones, take care of ourselves, and just get those basic tests done. And don't be afraid of your doctor. They are really nice people, actually.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Kristen. We're going to come back, just take a short break, and we'll be right back.
The views expressed during this program are not necessarily those of WISE Q95 FM Radio. WISE Q95 FM Radio has not been able to independently verify the factual correctness of the allegations and statements made during this program and cannot vouch for their accuracy. Therefore, WISE Q95 FM Radio will not accept any responsibility or liability for the statements or allegations made in the course of this program.
You Mostly aller dans des restaurants vous avez pour des bigs les more des bigs là feeling dernier puis un bigs là voici comme ça ou pas avoir besoin for woman hot marina enterprises pour mettre bigs sous your aqua chicken and fish et gyros and et la capon chalet des vieux barbecue grill chicken curry tombé à diffé la fille curry sorti hot day tous oreilles I mean for all these activities coming up ou besoin of bon barbecue grill professionally done by the professionals at Marino Enterprises. Get your food warmers, barbecue grills and your solar water heater from Marino Enterprises. Do re mi fa sola, when do solar is the best. Also, can you mette electric heater kayu? And what about your light bill? Depuis normal mette solar water heater on Marino Enterprises akaili. Toutes ces affaires capon whole bath libo matin everly swear. Yondi you floral dejis ni go mac amitel estomac li. Tija imade let me see visa buff mac. Hey, like gade bien. La quoi ce qui a sous l'estomac ti fi compte oui. And she still putting powder on it oui. Il gaji some map Guadeloupe. Or depuis you mette solar water heater on Marino Enterprises. Telephone 4491269. La po vini gon la poti bébé.
Parler bas, 40 ans on l'était tout pour pas les sortir la caille maman. C'est là où c'est les rétés, c'est là où c'est les morts, tout ça on fait du nous pour qu'à fonctionner. Belle chambre climatisée, l'auto bien astiquée, fait comme souffrir, c'est travail ou mon cher. C'est pas la vie mon cher, mais t'es l'eau du vin ou bien frère. Au camotti qu'on qu'a respirer, c'est pas la vie mon cher, mais t'es l'eau du vin ou bien frère. Ça ou canté, c'est sans qu'à récolter, je dis ou qu'à flamber, ou bien n'y a ça ou canté.
Ou oublier il n'y a pontier. That means you forget it of a God. So remember that. Okay, Freedom History of DFP. Last week we gave you some of what we have done in terms where the party came from, what brought it about, and what the party contributed to Dominica's development. We brought that to you, and many members who serve in various areas, particularly in Parliament and representing the various constituencies. And people who were very much impressed with that. In fact, we met a number of persons who said, you'll forget the lighting of, I met a gentleman who said the lighting of playing fields in Dominica started under the Freedom Party, the lighting of playing fields in Dominica. And I remember Michael, you mentioned the point of the state lottery was linked with the sports division. Mm-hmm. And a lot of their profit and so on would have gone to assist in the construction of basketball courts and improvement of playing facilities and so on. So there have been real efforts in sports in Dominica, and I think it is only fair to recognize the work done by those who did it before. Obviously, I mean, the Freedom Party is not in government, so you expect those in government to take charge and do things and do it properly. In fact, we're not living in the countries where you have two governments. You have countries where you have a government in the city and the government in bush, government in what they call government in hiding, and so forth. And I mean, you had places like Sudan, you had places like even the Philippines, and so those places where you have a group of persons who have their own army. And we don't have it in Dominica. We always recognize one government, one security force, and therefore, when the government is in office, they have total control of the country's assets and resources, and therefore, as custodians of the people's assets and resources, they have to work in the interest of the people. Or they give an impression if, well, nobody else did anything, and they are the supermen and women who came, and so forth. And this was the song say, Okamanti, and so forth. So Michael, you were quite right when you said the link between the sports division and the national lottery. I don't know what is happening now, if that is still the case.
Well, I have not heard on any news media that they're involved in any civic projects in especially sports. So I mean, it's unfortunate. what I see going on right now, Johnson, is persons in this administration feel that if they go to work and they do their work, you have to praise them. Anything they do, like it's the first time some minister is working for government that goes to work and repairs roads or rebuild roads or resurface roads. I don't think very few administrations came into Dominica and did not resurface most of the existing roads. But under the DFP administration, we brought farm access roads to higher heights. No other government has ever done that. I don't think in the Caribbean, because when we came into office, after hurricane devastated most of the farm access roads, several miles of roads, feeder roads and farm access roads were put in place. Remember the coconut rehabilitation project. We sought to develop agriculture, and there were not persons giving money for agriculture, for bananas, sorry. And the coconut rehabilitation project, when farmers got inputs and funding for opening acreages of coconuts, the farmers were encouraged to put bananas in there, and that brought tremendous income and expansion of the agricultural sector. During the period of the Freedom Party, agriculture grew by 10% per year on average. In this government, we can say agriculture declined by more than 10% per annum, with less and less exports.
Much more.
Every year there's a total decrease. And when we were exporting, for instance, bananas, $10 million a month on average, and plantains, approximately $1 million a month, they boast now and brag about $300,000 for a 3 month period last year. So you see, they have no idea of what Dominica was doing and what it's capable of doing. And it speaks volumes of the type of administration, the level of administration, and their ability to manage the economy. Okay, Johnson, we spoke about, I remember when Freedom Party was in government, there were 3 major roads being rehabilitated at the same time. We had 3 major contractors on the island doing the Kinfield to Melvin Hall road. Then we had the between Portsmouth and Hatton Garden. I forgot the name of the contractors. I remember Nelutier and Russian Thompson, and Sintra. These 3 major contractors, and we haven't seen that level of construction in Dominica ever since. Okay, and this is the kind of things that we need to see, where persons focus not on their self development, but on the development of the people, the country, and the infrastructure of the country. And while that was going on, John, remember the Kinfield development for Kinfield Industrial Site. The Kinfield Airport was expanded, and there was the cruise ship berth in Portsmouth, the one in Roseau, and the rehabilitation of the port. So, when people hear this government praise that they're doing something, yes, we accept when they do something, but to say that they Yokatwava and they were like nobody else worked, it speaks volumes, and I think we need to begin to show Dominicans what we have been doing, what we're capable of doing, and that this government is more focused on how they can benefit their personal selves and friends and family. We need to move away from that and put in programs that will encourage Dominicans not only to develop themselves, but when they work, they're working to promote the interests of Dominica and Dominicans.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in terms of housing, we saw where they talk about housing revolution and give the impression that they are the first government who really started assisting people with houses, which is not true. I mean, the late Frank Baron, started, and decent houses. If you at the back of public this area there, you have some decent houses built there. I think the nuns built some very nice apartments on the riverbank in Rosal there. The East Silverberg Bridge on the other side of it there. That's evidence to see. On the Patrick John, houses were built, and on the Freedom Park we built houses. In fact, I'm looking at an article.
We built communities.
Michael, you're quite right.
Several major communities.
Because as I said last week, I remember as a boy growing up, your house was a little wooden house. You had a lot of wooden house in those days, before 80. And you had your house and your kitchen was outside. So when there was a bad weather, your breakfast, your coffee would have taken time to be organized, because you have to either leave your house with an umbrella or plastic coat on your head and run in the kitchen to do that. And then things got modernized in the 80s under Freedom, where kitchen was in house, so you just get up and go next room and you prepare your meal and so on. And these are facts that no one can dispute. So Mr. Sentele, welcome, glad to see you. I mean, you are always welcome. In fact, a young lady told me this afternoon, I will be listening tonight, and I love Mrs. Sentele. So I will tell you her name, but I mean, she's listening. And of course, you can just say hello to her,
whoever she may be. And to all of our listeners, I want to say good evening. Welcome. We want to welcome you to our program. We know you're listening. We know lots of people are listening. You know that you're being educated. You know that you can say this is true or this is not true. We always try to speak the truth to you. We do not say what we do that we did not do, or what we did not do that we do. The Freedom Party is the party that has really put Dominica on its feet. The Freedom Party is the party that has spoken the truth to Dominicans. The Freedom Party is the party that has educated Dominicans. And I will keep on repeating, remember the amount of people coming down Constitution Hill in the evening after the evening classes. So many people can read, can write today. When they were going to school, they could not do it because at times their mother had to go to work, they had to stay and look after the smaller ones. But in the time of the Dominica Freedom Party, the time of Eugenia Childs, deceased, they educated themselves. Today, they can stand on their own. They are independent. Some of them are grateful for that. Some are not. There are those who can do extra jobs because of what they learned: catering, sewing, cooking, even learning to take off pictures. You know, a gentleman said to me today, I can do those things because of the Dame Eugenia Childs, who gave us extra curriculums so that we could really elevate ourselves. This is what we, the Freedom Party, want to go back to. That the generation that is coming for now, those who do not know about the Freedom Party, will have a taste of the goodness and kindness of the Dominica Freedom Party, to learn to be independent, not to learn to go and beg, but to learn to elevate themselves. Not to bring down yourselves into the gutter, but to learn to get out of that gutter and to be at the top. We can do it. You can't go to college, but you can educate yourself. You were not successful at school to graduate, but you can graduate afterwards. You can get a profession, you can do something for yourselves. Let us not let people use us and tell us about toilets and those things. I mean, everybody will never be the same. And what is the big thing about toilets? When you go to the country and you go to somebody's toilet that is not out of their home, that is out of their home, they haven't got a flushing toilet. It used to be clean. They respected it. They kept their places clean. You can have a beautiful toilet at your home and thing, and it might not be as beautiful as the one you go to some other place. And we must always remember, we all cannot be the same. We all cannot be at the same level. Just look at your toes. Look at your fingers. Look at your teeth and see if all is the same length. No, they are not the same length. They have different lengths. So, our listeners, please talk to those who don't understand. Talk to those who have ears and cannot hear. Talk to those who are greedy. Talk to those who are jealousy. Talk to those who want everything for themselves. And I'll keep repeating, no matter what you have to live it. Somebody else will enjoy it more than you. When you work hard for it, you enjoy it, and you leave it for somebody else to enjoy just like you. But when you don't work hard for it, you will not enjoy it. Somebody else will enjoy it better than you. Let us stop that greed. Let us stop that hatred. Because I'm a freedomite, I speak to a laborite. You will tell the laborite afterwards, you're talking to her? Come on, we all are Dominicans. We have to speak to each other. We have to encourage each other. We have to give life to each other. We have to let the spirit move in each other. We haven't got to live a selfish life. We did not know selfish attitudes in Dominica. We helped each other in whatever way it was, whatever way we could, we did it. Let us remember the goodness of the Freedom Party. Let us think again, and let us make freedom the choice in this coming election.
Yes, well, I just reading Freedom Voice, that was May to June 1989, Freedom Voice, and there's a lot of stuff that was done and was reported on. I see Mr. Rouet, Mr. James Rouet, who was at the time parliamentary representative for the Salisbury constituency, giving a complete report as to the development activities that took place in the Salisbury constituency. Then you had DFP Delegates Convention or Conference, that was May 1989, and you have all these speakers who were reporting and persons who were asking questions. Some are deceased here and some are still alive and so forth. But there's a lot there. And in terms of housing, I just want to read, because there's a lot to read. A little section says, the morning groundbreaking ceremony, which took place at the old mixed school in Cook Street on May 12, 1989, marked a very important milestone in the history of housing in Dominica. It represented the first comprehensive approach to the solution of the pressing problem of the rehabilitation of the depressing and dilapidated area of Roseau, and the houses are there to see. It mentioned also those built in Bath Estate and so forth. Now it said the total project estimated to cost approximately EC $25 million. And in those days, that was big name, $25 million. And it says somewhere there, we talk about $1 million will be of about 4 to 5 years duration in 5 phases. It is unique in the sense that it is a major venture being financed from local funds. So we were able to finance stuff from local funds. In fact, when the Bayfront was built, I remember the opening of the Bayfront and what went on there. When the British Minister for Overseas Affairs, I think it was Linda Chalk at the time, was addressing, they were so impressed with the work done with the Bayfront, because I don't know if people remember, well, the young ones will not remember that, but the older persons my age and others will remember that the sea was on the Royal Bank, you know. The Royal was almost in the sea.
Way up, yeah.
It was almost in the sea. And then the Bayfront was built and gave us space. Every night after the Bayfront was built and opened, there used to be an area for people to come and line, buy stuff. I remember even, I don't know if it was Paul Green, what the thing they're selling whole chicken, because all that came.
A rotary.
Yes. So all that came in there, people, you could go there and buy, a group of you buy a whole chicken and sit on the benches there and slice your thing and, you know, have a meal, have something to eat or eat and drink there. Those days, I mean, Bayfront, you pass there, nothing happening there. I see a caravan sometime there trying to...
On the Friday.
On the Friday, a little thing. But that used to be a place to line and so forth. And that cruise ship berth, up to now, is bringing revenue to the country. I remember we had this ship coming in there every Tuesday, the carnival. And we lost that. And I remember once Ian Douglas, Minister of Tourism at the time, make a big vary that they're going to get the ship back. Where is that vary? Where is the ship? It's not there. I think it came in once during the season, and after that, that's it. But you go to St. Lucia, you go to St. Kitts, these places, and they have boats.
Always.
So the taxi men, I remember the guy was saying to me, can you imagine dumpers and backhoes became apparent and big business in Dominica under freedom? Because when show with Nello, TM, Sintra, and Russian Tompkin, that the people were engaged and they bought trucks, and Michael made the point early on. So things happened and so on. Then you imagine the people in La Plaine and the people in Petit Savan and the people in Delis, people in Poetica, people in Grand Formont and River Civic, Casablues, Petit Soufre area, the Carib territory, the Cananago territory, and Cortage and these places. I mean, the young people are seeing lights there, and they feel the light just come in and just put itself there. But there was no lights there, you know. And the Freedom Party electrified those areas. And these were big villages, you know.
They were massive projects.
These were big villages, and when you were going in those villages as a child, you're excited, you know. When we went to Lapland for a meeting, I remember we went to Lapland for a meeting, and you had to plug in your PA system on the vehicle battery to be able to speak to the people. You could not bring hi-fi, you could not bring big band, and so forth. So whether you are Labour right today, or whatever you are today, you have to remember the efforts made by the Freedom Party.
You talk about the cruise ship thing, you know, and I would, when I would see 2 cruise ships, I say we're doing good. When I see 3 cruise ships, one in Foncole, one in Roseau, and one out there, you know, I say, whoa, we're really on a roll. But I go to St. Martin, I saw 6 cruise ships there at one time. I say, way papa.
And let me tell you something. I remember there was a massive meeting in Versailles, and every CARICOM and Latin American, Caribbean tourism person was there. But I got a call from I think it was the CARICOM Secretariat, and asking me, what is going on? I understand you guys not going to this meeting. I said, no man, I think I remember talking to Dasper, and the manager told me he was on his way there. But next thing, rather than go to this meeting, they went somewhere, I think in Florida. And, you know, it was really, really, really a testimonial of the type of understanding they had for the tourism industry. The whole of the Caribbean, Latin America, tourism people were going to Versailles to see what is new in cruise ship so they could bring them to their territory. But in Dominica, it clearly shows that they don't understand the economy and what they have to do. Like they get up one morning and just decide to plan to go there and do that on a day-to-day basis. And that's not how you run a country, because it takes time to get the government machinery to come behind you and support you. Okay, the same thing, you mentioned the toilet project. This is a project that stems from the Inter-American Development Bank, has a project, and it's been implemented in Guyana, where the planning for that is very serious. It's to reduce disease. You don't want to just give people septic tanks and the areas is not suitable, and next thing you know, you're spreading disease rather than making it more convenient for people. You created an environment that will promote disease. So you're going to have planning, environmental health, and all the organizations involved to see, you know, the suitability of a septic tank in the area, and that is where they would put priorities, okay? But it is just that you have 99 people without toilets, you give them toilets without looking at the health risk in just putting a septic tank in an area that is not suited. So, you know, it's a serious thing. They talk about housing revolution. Similarly, if we did this housing revolution properly, it's a good idea, but they hadn't got the capabilities of implementing it. Because if you were to do it good, you would be able to tell Dominicans, when you started the housing revolution, there were 5, 10, or 20 contractors, but we were able to certify an additional 20, so now we have 40 qualified contractors, and they are certified. They can build concrete houses to 2 stories, and they're capable. How many carpenters, how many masons, how many plumbers, how many are certified? But there was no plan to develop people. What they're doing is just having projects as a big vary, as you would say, but it is there to tell people they're doing so much. But at the end of the day, they're so involved in trying to protect themselves and give people the wrong story so they'll believe that everything is good and dandy, that you know, they don't have time to develop these things properly, and they want to control everything so we don't get the real story. And this is very unfortunate, and I'm seeing the results now. They're desperate. According to Johnson, they're desolate, and they're just going everywhere giving money. They don't understand their role. Just imagine Johnson, the minister from the parliamentary representative of the Petit-Savan constituencies, is saying people who reside in the community of Petit-Savan, if some landslide were to cover them or something, they're not going to help them. Who is he to say that? He doesn't understand his rule. These people are paying taxes. They buy goods. I mean, the buses go up there and sell goods to them. Or they come to roads and buy the goods. They pay taxes. You cannot decide to discriminate against your constituency members. So that tells you the type of vindictiveness that exists. I do not know why they're doing that. And I understand that the community been asking them what is going on in terms of what documents you have to show that is a high risk to live in the area. And it's 2 years now and they haven't received that documentation. But for the minister to say that this week when they had a meeting somewhere in Bacatel or wherever, it is you know, it shows, I'm embarrassed to hear a doctor as a minister saying he's going to violate their fundamental rights, to discriminate against them if they go there and some disaster were to happen to them. This is unheard of. This is the same minister who banished a gun in Parliament and nothing was done. So it tells you the type of administration we have. So, you know,
but if the minister is frustrated, you know, anything can happen, you know. You know, you don't know, the minister might be depressed, he might be going to cabinet talking to the PM and others and nobody want to give him hearing or give him support. He can pass it on the people up there. You have to understand people, you know.
No, we have to have some kind of consideration for our current administration. They're under a lot of pressure. The noose is tightening. Almost every day, new revelations are coming out about the monies and the diplomatic passports and so forth. I know we have a schedule that we have to stick to. But what was it, the last one about Maduke, that they're tracking down her properties and they're seizing her properties in New York, in Nigeria, and so forth.
And in England.
And in England. So the fact of the matter is, what is happening is that these collectors or whatever they are, international legal jurisdictions are going to come to Dominica and going to try to recoup some of that money. So the government is distributing money, like crazy, without any rhyme or reason, willy-nilly, vitae, and that type of thing. And it's the analogy. It is like bank robbers escaping and the police are in hot pursuit, and they take out some bags of money and throw it in the air, and pedestrians are clawing at the air for those dollars, and the police all of a sudden cannot go through these people to get to the bad guys. Okay? So the Dominicans are just CBI money crazy, where's mine, how come he got this one? As we mentioned, in Scott's Head, I was in Scott's Head on Sunday. 3 brothers, I understand, this is not verified. I don't have any personal verification of that. 3 siblings got $10,000 each for some small business. They say, just apply and you'll get it. But we know that it is being used as a preemptive bribing and treating to buy votes. So if somebody says, boy, I got 10,000 from Labour Party, when it comes to vote, they don't have time to think about the nuance of, developing agriculture and developing tourism. All they're going to remember, I got $10,000. Maybe if we put this party back again, I will get $10,000 again. These are the guys, we don't know about them. So, we have to understand that this CBI largesse that we are experiencing in Dominica is tainted money, most likely. There was a revelation earlier this week or last week about when Monfared was arrested or was detained in Thailand. That was the time when he was referred to Dominica, and they immediately gave him a diplomatic passport. I understand it is alleged. Don't ask me. I'm just a doctor taking care of people, making them better. If you want to know the facts, we'll go to the primary sources. It is all out there. There was absolutely no diligence done. It was a straightforward case of an international criminal, a sanctions violator, somebody that the United States of America is very interested in, somebody that the state of Iran is very interested in, and he most likely might be executed, within the year, because those fellas don't waste time. This is an international criminal. I met with the police department when we had that rally, and I, to negotiate the times and so forth, and I warned them, bold face, in their faces. I said, look at you in your uniforms. You look very sharp and you look very outstanding. But we have international crooks crawling in Dominica. I have friends who work with Interpol, the police officers responsible for Interpol. I won't call any names. But I understand that they received those tips about those people, and they were instructed, to ignore them. Now, I don't know that for myself. This is something that is reported, that's being said, and they have complained to me about that. Policemen are complaining to me. They say, boy, hold strong, every day, every single day. So let's understand that we have to get back to focusing on development. Unlike what Vince Henderson said at the graduation of the Dominica State College, we cannot ignore agriculture. We have to go back and resuscitate the banana industry like the people in St. Lucia are doing. We have to go back and develop cocoa. We have developed all the other the ground provisions that are being shipped now to the neighboring islands. We have to develop those things where people can have their own money and not being out like beggars, with their tongues hanging out, going to the so-called red clinic, all this illegal stuff that we have to deal with. Ladies and gentlemen, Dominica has to turn around in order to prosper. There is no vision. And the good book says, where there is no vision, I'll let you finish that.
The people perish. Okay, I'm getting some WhatsApp messages. One is saying, Mr. Boston, good evening, greetings. I'm listening, I'm locked in, totally. Bosso, some people who have toilet may be getting toilets too. Well, then we have, okay. People saying, well, I've locked in, listening, very good program, keep it up. Now we have somebody who said, let me see what he said. Last Sunday at Pakatel Town Hall meeting, Daru said that we want to save Peter Savan, more power to them. But let me tell all you, I will not take part in any rescue mission like Erica again.
I was totally annoyed when I heard that. I just cannot imagine an elected official saying that about people who voted for him.
No, but he's their pal rep.
No, but there's VAT. Whether you like it or not, you buy a Coke, you buy then anything you buy have VAT on it. So you pay in your taxes. That pays his salary. And he's saying that. And he cannot notify them why on earth they shouldn't live in Petit Savin. Where is the report? What is the risk involved? And this is the thing that concerns me. Because a lot of persons have their investment there. There are areas that are quite safe. When it rains, they have no problem. They put in their water, they clean in their road, they do all sort of things so that they can be comfortable. And for you to detest, have some problems with them and telling them that if some disaster, as Johnson read from the caller, this is unheard of. It tells you this is a minister who is mental. He doesn't understand his role to serve the people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in terms of the point some made a while ago, in terms of the CBI, you see, the government get into trouble because they are not open and transparent. In this thing, it's all secretive, and therefore it is blowing up in their faces. Now, I'm reading something in this same Freedom Voice. There was a press conference where the Prime Minister used to be taking questions from the press, and she would not chastise any press. She said, as it is, you ask questions, she answered the question. I remember there was a program called Under Fire. I think it was Matt Peltier, Ken Richard, and Phil Remy used to sit on that program, and they would bring you in and grill you. And I remember she went in there in some program, she was being grilled under fire. There was the What About program where you go, this Prime Minister don't want debate, he don't want press conference. Is when he's pressed and pushing a corner, then he try to call a press conference and read something, take no question, or if you take questions, very few, very selective. But I'm saying in that press conference, hear what it says. The Prime Minister first emphasized that the only cost to Dominica taxpayers associated with her recent trip to the United States was a part of her airfare. She was invited there by a number of organizations and institutions, and so she used the opportunity to do some business for Dominica.
Of course.
The others would do business for themselves.
For themselves, yeah.
She did business for Dominica.
You don't know what agreement they signed.
MOU, you don't know what is it. Then they say, for instance, she was invited to speak at the graduation inauguration of Clemson University in South Carolina. There she looked at a new system of garbage disposal. She took the garbage as an issue. We can hardly pick up garbage on time. New garbage disposal.
We have some
She ordered container components and 8 garbage trucks. 8 garbage trucks. One for Portsmouth, Dublin, and Bioche. One for the coast of St. Joseph and Maho. One for Point Michel and Soufriere. 4 for Roseau. So Roseau, Kenfield, Goodwill, Newtown, Loubier, and one for the East Coast. Okay? So these things have been, reported to Dominican people when she was Prime Minister. Those days you were hearing that and so on.
It's like Lucifer was saying, how far, how have thou fallen? Mm-hmm. Imagine 8 garbage trucks for Dominic, and I was driving behind a garbage truck tonight coming to the program, and the typical garbage truck that we have dumper with the plywood, the pallets on the side, and the guys sitting on top of the garbage, throwing it to them, and of course the stench because it's not controlled. And you know, we have fallen back, and the sad thing about it is that so much of the population doesn't realize and doesn't understand. And so I think, Bosso, it's a wonderful thing that you're reminding Dominica of the heights of development that we were with back in those days and where we must return.
But talking about garbage, at times I feel I have to be telling the fellas, boy, don't sit at the top of that truck. You can get hurt. And a few weeks ago, you know, the fella got hurt in coming down the hill at Portney. They have the rubbish right up, and you know, we as citizens, and they're doing that, we don't emphasize enough to tell them it is your life you're risking by sitting on the top of that truck full with garbage. They haven't got proper clothing on them.
Well,
and you know, it's just, they haven't got trucks, you know. Because the last week I wanted to bring, they haven't got trucks. They told me plain they have no trucks. I wanted to bring it up. Instead of the PM giving people money, please order some garbage trucks for Dominica. Because they're picking up rubbish all around the country, and rubbish is by the road there. Because they have no trucks to pick up the rubbish. Help them. That is what we have to do, to help others who can't help themselves. If they have no money to buy trucks, you're the Prime Minister. Don't let that be an eyesore in your country. Because when people come to the city or anywhere and they see garbage, you are the one. You are the one that they're going to look up to say, you have money to give people and you can't give us garbage.
Yes. Hello, good evening.
How are you doing, Francis Joseph?
Francis Joseph.
How are you doing? My apologies for not being able to be there and arriving late.
Yes.
How is everybody? Good evening, everybody.
We are fine, and I guess the listeners are okay, and they're happy to hear you. I heard you were powerful with maths one of those mornings.
Wow.
Yesterday morning?
Well, he rocked the airwaves, and then it was repeated again, and the response was tremendous. Francis, good to hear your voice, man. We were bathing in the sea at Lupe a couple of Sundays ago, and it was, you look great, you look fantastic.
Well,
Theresa May is going well with you.
I'm trying. Any issues, I know I can find a doc.
Yes. And then if you give us any problem here, we want Theresa May with you, you know.
You'll want her in May or in June, will you want her?
No, in May, in her surname.
Okay. No, man, we are disciplined up there, man.
I know
how to do things.
Yes.
I just want to commend you on the way you introduced the topic with Matt, talking about the book, Why Nations Fail.
Yes.
And, I think Dominicans have to understand that we are not an isolated place, and we follow certain patterns. You reference Haiti, you reference Egypt, and how only a small group of people prosper, and the masses of the people and the development continues to go down and down. So you were very insightful, and I know that you might want to share a little bit and how you connected that to the Red Clinic and the handouts and the lack of social services. I mean, it was an education. I was standing there in rapt attention listening to you, Francis.
Well, there are so many countries similar to this. You think of Zimbabwe, a guy who is at 95 and still want to continue and won't give up. And the whole structure there is circled around one person rather than having the professionals taking charge, and when he moves on, no one knows how the system is going to fall, how the people are going to respond. As I said, I've been to Haiti twice. I've been there with my boss when I worked with Child Fund to see if we could intervene there, but then the structures were already far gone and the institutions, and it was a real fight for anyone hearing new NGO want to come into Haiti. They would want to really promote themselves vigorously and physically, their bodies, that they would want to take it on board because it will bring in some revenue and some payment for them. The institutions were just destroyed in Haiti, and Papa Doc and the 19-year-old baby Doc at that age. That's why I don't think anybody anywhere under the age of 40, 45 should take control of a country, because I don't think that they are mature enough. That is very important, and that is why We are saying young people shouldn't have children at an early age. We're not sure they're able to parent those children. Those things are very critical for us to understand. And the whole question of our structures and institutions, we are far gone. For some people, it's not visible because they receive handouts. You have people distributing money, and you have ceremonial activities, handing out big sums of money for activities, which doesn't mean anything or go anywhere. But the people who are receiving those things, they are not receiving it within a structure or within a discipline or within a platform. Let alone for those who are giving it. It's nothing to do with socio-economic development. It just has to do with passion and probably to be buying a people and buying a community, that I love my people and here is some money is just going to be transformed or converted into anything. That is not happening, and that is how Haiti got to this situation that it is now. It's terrible. The people got to the point where they cut down their forest because they wanted fuel. That's what they use the wood for. And whenever a hurricane comes, it just wipes out communities and kills a lot of people. So there is nothing holding the water from the mountains. So we are in a situation here where I know, and I've met a lot of professionals since then, who just say thank you, Francis, especially when I make reference to what is the heart of my concern, is the local government structure and the social services or the welfare department, which are not functioning or performing, and not visible. Since when I was in child fund, from the latter age stage, I've been mentioning that we were the ones with my staff all over the island collecting data and information about abuse within families. And I know a case that still has not been attended to because the resources are not there to do that. And the welfare services is basically stationed in Roseau. You hardly hear the principal person heading that department, both departments, talk about anything in a way that people can capture it as the minister responsible for social services. It therefore means you may have people who are not tuned to that background running an office and trying to understand the concept of how they should function, in particular the social services. They call it the welfare division, I call it the social services. And you have brilliant people there who want to work, but to call for a case within a community, I mean, they will tell you my travel mileage is done, I can't go out anymore, and it is limited. So the people don't feel the authority, the people don't feel that they are obligated to respond to anything about child abuse, protection of children, families, because there's no one out there guarding them, promoting them, and ensuring that children are protected. The teachers, I tell you, are doing their very best under these circumstances. They have to teach, they have to be parented, they have to deal with the parents, and all kind of stuff. So we're in a critical junction now as to how we administer our services in the protection of our children, families, and our communities. Most of them have deteriorated and more or less about 5-6 communities. Then you hardly see anyone in there. That is a concern. So all the blowing up of GIS and other radio stations is just facilitating people, but it doesn't do anything much.
Yes, well said, Francis. And I think in terms of even putting our resources together, for example, you have a little area with a village council, a little community of a village council. They have a clerk, they have 8 councillors, and then next door to them has a clerk, 8 councillors, and they have to, find resources to do roads, to do things. I of the view, if you could pull these councils together, rather than having a village council, you may have district councils. It may probably bring more resources together because more people would be in the system, paying the rates, paying the house rates, paying the land tax, what have you, and the community would be able to gain more from that than the way it is, and things like that. I think as we go forward and we look at how things are, we have to organize to maximize our, potential and resources. The other thing too is, we have no issue with people receiving money, but he hasn't made the point. It has to be in a structured way. But at the end of the day, what you give me today will prepare me to sustain myself going forward tomorrow and the rest of my life. Rather than giving me something today I get excited, I buy 4 magrims, I bought whatever the case may be, and then tomorrow I have to come back to you now for the same thing. It's like, so at the end of it, you don't add value to the people in the community. What's your view on that? Francis, you there? It seems we lost him then.
Yeah, that's all right.
It seems we lost him. Yes, but he can always come back. Hello, good evening.
Yes, I got cut off, but I was listening to you on the radio.
Yes, okay.
I mean, you make reference to, there is, I mean, it bothers me so much what the local authority is supposed to be doing, because they will be that authorities. As I indicated, I think our communities are too small now to have village councils and doing their own thing. We have to now build it up into something bigger, and rather than having all the resources operating out of Roseau and going up there, they need to be there and they need to be visible. I'm looking at a place like Castlebrus. We're in Castlebrus, and in Good Hope, which is 15 minutes drive away, there's a village council, and in Soufrier for Sansouvet, there's another village council. These councils are small, and there was a paper that I presented in the time of Pierre Charles, when there was this big consultation going on at the public service service union, and a number of people presented. I presented on the restructuring of local authority / social services, and we have 41 local authorities around the island, and my paper is suggesting reducing it to 17. That way we can cluster and share the resources in the best way possible. In London, you have local authorities, which is the population of Dominica. But they have the resources, they have a mayor, they have a chief executive officer, and that's where the social workers and the environmental officers are located. They take care of that borough, they raise their funds from tourism, they take care of their own parks, and they're entitled to raise funds. Obviously, the government still gives a subvention, and they still request money from central government, but it has to be accounted for, and it has to be done in the best way possible. And merging those areas now, which are small, you will obviously, if I mention those 3 villages, you will have people representing all of those villages with a central office where people come to work and they plan and they come up with a big plan for their communities. Obviously, central government will know about it, and to input and to have the responsibility to get resources themselves and raise funds and get the people who reside overseas from those respective areas to contribute to the development, come up with a plan. That council I'm referring to in Castlebrus, which will be a municipality, will take care of the freshwater lake, that place before you come into Castlebrus, Emerald Pool.
Emerald Pool, yes.
They will be responsible for managing it, selling it, training local people as guides and tour guides to understand the trees, the value of it, and to have it sold, and collect the fees and let it stay within that area, and let them be responsible for servicing them. Obviously, a forestry officer who works in that district will be working with them on how best to develop it. You have to have the standards, because they can do their bylaws as well. The government puts the laws for the entire country, but it can be done. And there are other in the valley should have that council, which is a rich area for promoting tourism. You have so much in there, responsible for that entire area, and promote it and make money out of it. And the people coming from school, give them a feel that they are part of governance rather than just some government in the capital. You know what I mean? So we are outdated with local authority. It came in many years ago, and those who were involved in doing that, I think in the 30s or the 40s, it was called something else before. They knew where they were going, and remember that thing came from Britain. The only other countries I know in the Caribbean that have similar is the one in Jamaica. It's called the SDC, the Social Development Commission. I did a placement there in Manchester. Trinidad has a thriving local authority as well. Barbados has something similar, but they call it something different. St. Vincent, I think, is trying to do this, but I'm not sure my work there that they had that sort of model or that function. They may have had local people organized, but I don't think it was structured as a local government authority. So we are long in this thing, and it is overdue. So what we see happening is central government responsible for all of those areas, bypassing them and just issuing things, and these people know nothing. So they are not there. There's no feeling for them to take initiative other than to complain. We don't have that, and we don't have that.
Because even for instance, in areas where there is a council and the government, where you have, put that way, a bright council, and the government can manipulate them, they form what they call Village Improvement Committee.
Right.
So why do you want to have Village Improvement Committee when the village council is by law established to take care of these things?
And they are by law, they are the local authority. We also promoted other committees to support, and maybe would have, because you have 5 elected members and 3 nominated.
Yeah.
But then the subcommittees like all over the world, there is nothing wrong in having an improvement committee, especially if young people want to come up and say, I want to be responsible for cleaning the beach or for sports. That gives them an early exposure and feeling into what local governance is all about. So if they start at that level at 17, 18, doing that, after a while they're going to get fed up because they have done enough and they would like to go at a higher level, and from there maybe being a pal rep or being a minister working in government. And they have to be welcomed because the local authority can't do it on its own. Sorry.
Just one question, Francis. Where I see that going on, happening, the committees, development committees, are under the local government authority. So they're being mentored and they give them specific areas to deal with.
Yes.
But what this government has done to our local government is they have made it like a Labour Party branch. And where they do not have the support, as Johnson says, they form their village development committees, and they have destroyed the local government authority.
Yes.
Not only that, in Dominica, what I see happening is they may lose an election, but the chairman might end up being one of their people who never got, who were rejected by the people.
That's correct.
And I, for one, feel like it should be like in the UK, it should be like in Jamaica. Only elected officials should vote for the chairman. You can nominate people and they go and vote for chairman, and they were rejected. You can imagine that. To me, I took part in some survey they were doing for amending legislation when I was president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I was sure the intentions of the legislation was to ensure that that amendment be put in place. I do not know what you could tell me about that.
Well, you mean for the nomination of the chairperson?
Yes, it had to be an elected official. What happened to that?
My understanding is once the election is over, you have 5 elected members. And I'm trying to recall, and I think at that stage, they make that nomination who they wish. Or I think it is also done once they get the nominated members to the 3 nominated members to be the full, and then they elect their chairperson. But my understanding is it's an elected person who is usually allowed to be the chair. That's my understanding about that.
No. Any of the 8.
Any of the 8 can be the chairperson.
Is who got the majority of the votes among them?
No, it's during the election time. It is not who gets the majority of the votes don't count and takes you to be the chairperson. No.
When I talk of majority of votes, I don't mean the election.
You mean in the
among the 8?
Among themselves?
Among the 8.
Yeah, out of the 8. Yes. That is correct.
Francis, you mentioned something about if Prime Minister Theresa May were to come and give a certain amount of money to a local government, what would happen?
That can happen. She'll be kicked out of office immediately by her own members. Literally.
Yeah.
The judiciary and the laws are abiding, and it is there. And anyone can step in and point out to anyone that they have faltered and they move. She can do that. If she opens 10 Downing Street and starts dishing out money, that is fraud, and she will be charged and likely to go to prison. It's just as simple as that.
Well, we set up in Israel, recently.
The same thing, in the States, anyway.
Well, Israel doesn't play. Israel put their president in jail,
Yes.
and they put their prime minister in jail.
Yes.
That's two. That's Omert, who was mayor of Jerusalem, and the president who was messing around with a soldier who sexually assaulted a soldier. They went to prison.
And we don't have to go far. You go to Barbados, has something similar to local authority. I said, I can't recall what it's called. You can't do that in Barbados.
At all.
You can't attempt to do that or run your own show on your own parliamentary representative with government money just dishing out without it being discussed. You can't do that.
For example, Francis, when the council take their oath, is to serve the local district.
That's correct.
Everybody in the local district. Now, I know they collect house rates and they get what they got a matching grant.
Yes.
And I know I can name, for example, St. Joseph, I know they're still doing it, but St. Joseph in the past would have paid more. The house people would have paid more just to raise a certain amount, which would bring in a matching grant of a certain size.
From the government.
From the government and so on. They would have done that.
Yes.
But what is happening now is the government gives them a list of names. Let's say if they give them a check for housing or for toilet, they give them a list who to get, and you're not supposed by law discriminate against people in the local district.
This is absolutely disgusting. I mean,
the councils, the respective councils need to be strong enough, like a council did during an inauguration when the Prime Minister went there. We are the ones local in the area. We know our people. If you are giving us a grant, you have to make sure you get it in the best way possible, it's accounted for, and it is lodged in the best way possible. And at that village council inauguration I was in, he walked in and says, here's $250,000. There's a lot more where this came from. But when the chairperson went on board to give his speech, he reminded him that, I'm sorry, sir, but I want to remind you, we have our own list. It means don't try to trespass and come with yours from whomever you get it. And really, that's how we're going to do it. So it was using them to distribute to whom he thought from Roseau. But you know your people. That's an insult. You don't do things like that. So it's not everybody who's strong enough to stand up and say so. It's not everybody who's strong enough to do that, and that is not good. And they are manipulating the whole thing. And even the officers within those institutions in Dominica, they can't do much because they are scared they'll be reported or they'll be transferred or something will happen to them. So the kind of development and fanfare that the authorities had and the council had for feast days and so on, all those things are gone.
Yes.
You know, all those things are gone. They have to generate, I mean, most of the communities have a lot of potential in promoting their own tourism and selling their own communities. You can't wait on the tourist board in Roseau, who probably mainly focuses on the cruise ship coming in and what we're going to do with the vagrants. And maybe looking at just the valley of desolation and it's going to fall. If those structures were well entrenched within the communities, they will have to go there and advise them how best to put a plan in place for attracting tourism.
Yes.
The Carib territory needs that as much as possible,
yes.
And how to sustain it and how to continue to build on it. Obviously, you'll be accountable to the government that you are doing things on due diligence, everybody's involved, and you're accounting for money and etc. etc.
But
yes, Francis, the time is really wrapping up on us there, and we have not even covered a few things. We may have to just leave them out for tonight, but we wanted to look at the 2017-2018 national budget.
Right.
Now, the Prime Minister in areas going, I think it is illegal when he goes to, I mean, he was in Peter Sevan, and he say we have so much money for this, so much money for that. I think he was in Dublin and said the same thing in the budget. But to me, the budget is people have to understand, the budget is not money that is tying there. It's money you hope to raise in the year and how you hope to spend it.
Right.
Now, this thing he's doing is illegal because unless the budget is approved by Parliament, and I think even his own members is also say party volet. If his own members is allowing him to break the rules.
The Attorney General should have stepped in and the Director of Audit immediately walked into his office and said, this is wrong. That's how it's done all over.
All over. You
cannot, I'm advising you, sir, you cannot do this, that when I'm telling you you can't. There are laws which can get you in trouble if you do this.
Yes.
And if you stand up and do that, oh, my PM love these people and leave him alone. That is nowhere in the statutes and in the book of good governance and transparency and accountability. It's not there.
Because you can do the same thing after the budget, you can go to the area and see, well, we have voted for so much, because when you tell Pilit Sevan or Bakatel, you have $200,000 for fishing.
But how did they arrive at the 200,000?
Oh, that's
Who
right.
told them that?
Who told them that? Is it a project for the, say for example, the entire country?
All right.
Or is it a project just for the particular area?
For food catching.
For food catching. So how much you have voted for fisheries for the year, for agriculture for the year? So you can't go out and saying you have that there when the budget itself has not even been presented. I think the president of the country need to advise the prime minister.
I don't think that's possible.
He's breaking the law.
That route.
Huh?
Don't go down that route.
No, but it needs to be said.
I agree with you.
Let people see is Makakwi we have going on.
I agree.
But it needs to be exposed as a responsible person who can say, Mr. Prime Minister, because he's going to give an address to open parliament. So he's involved. And when he gives an address, it has to be an address not of beaten, fit, and labu.
I think some of it is too camouflage and it doesn't really reach the heart. I think although you're giving it to Parliament, the ordinary people need to understand what's happening. Because, for example, in Good Hope, Good Hope was never designed, when I was a local government officer, was never designed to be a village council status. It's a very vulnerable area with some slides and potential slides, which is very risky. And we decided to give it the status, which is in the local government books, to give it the status of an improvement committee, meaning a de facto village council. So they'll have their chairman and they'll be recognized as the representative body for the community. When it appears that government felt that they were going to lose election 2 elections ago, they quickly just upgraded it to a village council and they can't function like this. They're not functioning like this, I understand. They don't have money to pay their rates. You go around the council and ask a council how much is their rates a year, at least a month, you'll find out. In most areas, a family is asked just to pay about $4 a year, you know. It's $1 per room.
Yes.
And I mean, that has to be reviewed. You have to go to the people and tell them, look, that doesn't make sense. Get your family, get the people outside of Dominica who are from your respective villages to be part of the village that they want to see develop, so when they come home they can feel comfortable. There's so much that can be done, but they are not taught to think. They are not given the opportunity to think and to plan. The agents and the representative of government, the workers, respective governments, with the local government fisheries, they do not have that space and to exercise their professionalism, how they have been trained to dialogue with these people, to help them build up and to guide them. That's how we did it then. But that is not there now. So these people are just operating, just for operating sake.
Yes.
They're in a job.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, well,
one of the major things I wanted to mention, Johnson, with the village councils, some of them, a contract is being issued and the village councils know nothing about it in their community.
That's correct.
That is disrespectful. And, you know...
undermining.
You know, and it's undermining the authority. But when he comes and he says, oh, I have this contractor coming and do that, they're all clapping, we, and not realizing that he seems to recognize, and I think a speaker who spoke to us mentioned that the Prime Minister thinks that Dominicans have no head. He just does whatever he wants, and it's disrespectful.
Let me give you an example of a serious intervention that I had to get into for council that was not under my supervision, going through the guidance about accounting for money and just spending without going through the council members and meetings and so forth. To cut it short, cabinet came up to that village, or that was under Miss Charles, and advised that what you have been doing and what we are hearing is wrong. You are dealing with state money, and the Prime Minister then, was responsible for finance, and indicated you have 2 options here, my friend. 1 is either you resign, or 2, we're going to prosecute you.
Yes.
Now, trying to be stubborn because you were voted in and all this kind of stuff, and you are this, you are that. And then Brian Allen was Minister of Home Affairs then. I remember that period.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the point you're going to have now. You resign. He was messing around. They went at the back of the police station cabinet and they had a talk and they came back and they reinforced it. He finally agreed. And it is sad to see it happened in that area, because I had to go to this person's home and get the instruments of the council and so forth. This is how you want to see a government monitoring and demonstrating the importance of transparency and accounting. That is what we want to see. And people will abide by it and be careful.
Yes.
But right now, it's anything goes and anything you take and so forth, and there is no respect, and it's like one person running the entire show. You hardly hear of the Minister of Local Government or Social Services about anything. I don't know. It's just wrapped up in all mess. I'm afraid it's
Well,
just.
Francis, there is a call on the overseas line. I tried to take the caller for the longest while.
Yes.
I don't know if you'll get caught up, but I'm going to take the caller. So stay on the line or listen to here if the caller have a question for you.
Sure, no problem.
Hello, good evening. Caller gone. Well, he's get cut off. Hello. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Also, I realize you wanted to move away from that topic with Joseph a little, but I just wanted to touch on something there. I think while we talk about the issue of happening in Barbados or Israel or whatever, I really want us to focus on why. I think it is important that we focus on why. They're because what we have not done as an independent nation is develop our nation politically. You know, we've had political parties and we've had, this, but we haven't developed, the people politically. And I think we should, this issue of electoral reform, my brother, is something that I think it offers us a unique opportunity to do that maturing of us as a nation politically. I think electoral reform allows us that opportunity to bring our nation into that century, into that kind of mindset. And so I hope that we can use that. And I really would like to hear more from a collusive kind of effort, even involving the Freedom Party. I know there is no stick, there is no whatever, but the Freedom Party is not a vacuum. It has, it has potential as far as what it has been as an entity.
Yeah.
So I really would like to start hearing about how we can coalesce around this electoral reform issue. And yes, while party building, but we need a collusive effort. We need a combined thing. And I think these issues of an electorate that has not been brought forward politically, I think this offers us that unique opportunity to build that in terms of Dominica.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I think you made a very, very important point there, very good intervention. Because what we have been doing is, I support my party, they're in office, they can do as they like, no problem with me. And then I do support that party, they're in office, whatever they do, I have an issue with. And I think it should not work, it should work in a way that what is wrong,
what is right,
and what is right is right. And therefore, when something is wrong, we all, whether we support the party or not, we could call on the party to change. Because if they can change it in time, it's to the advantage of the country. But if it's prolonged over a period of time, unchanged, by the time you recognize, let's say government changed to do something different, the damage already been done.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good point the caller made.
Yeah, very good point, Johnson, because but if people recognize that what is going on in Dominica is wrong, because up to today when the issue came up on Daru's statement, two persons mentioned it to me. When the issue came up, or the statement in Bakatel, an elderly woman says, Michael, ça nous n'y l'a pas gouvernement, ça, so makakwe nous n'y l'a aussi. So the people are recognizing that it's not working. You can't just go and just distribute money willy-dilly all over the place with no structure. What is the objective?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Bosso, and good evening to your panelists.
Yes.
And good evening to your listeners. Also, in all of these plans, processes, and programs, our first mission is to restore the institutions of democracy. And as Zeb just alluded to, the first pillar is the Electoral Commission. The second pillar is the court system. The third pillar is the police services. The fourth pillar is going to be the social services. And then the fifth pillar is the local government. Now, for the local government, since, as Joseph said about the size, we have 10 parishes or 21 constituencies. Why don't we divide the local governance into either parishes or constituencies? For example, a constituency, for example, the Wesley constituency, like the Wesley and Woodford Hill. So you would have maybe a council or whatever you want to call it that would be overseeing Wesley and Woodford Hill. And, that sort of issue if we have the question of the size. Because in all of this, we can talk all of this as long as our institutions of democracy are no longer functioning because they have all been compromised, all been undermined. How can you tell me a prime minister can be dishing out money to people coming to him? There is not even the worst dictator in the world behave that sort of way. And who facilitates that? Isn't there a finance act that governs the monies out of the treasury and the role and responsibility of the finance minister? Isn't there civil service regulations that guides and governs the behavior of public servants, particularly the permanent secretaries and the cabinet secretary? Isn't there regulations that govern the conduct of the director of audit? These are functioning authorities that have certain responsibilities under the Constitution and as part of the institutions of democracy in Dominica. And unless we have them restored, we are not going to do. We can talk from now till the cows come home. Until those institutions that support democracy or the kind of democracy that we have, until they are restored, starting with the Electoral Commission, we are not going anywhere, and we're just talking through thin air. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, Francis got caught up by mistake because the technology sometimes can play its own little trick. So he can call back, but the caller made some good points. Yes, we have to restore the institutions of democracy and and the court system, because sometimes things take so long in the courts that yourself, for example, there's a matter with Mr. Sabroch, and that is about 6 years now, and he lives in Texas now, and he comes down for it, and it's been postponed again for another time.
And it's a course.
Yes, I'm back.
Yes, you're back, yes. Okay, you heard...
Robin said something very important, and I think it's around the same line.
And the caller before him too.
About using the constituents. But it's something that a real group of people have to sit down to see how best you're going. For the purpose of geography and transportation and cross-mixing, just to put it in that position. But it can be done. I don't think it's much of an issue. But his comments are commendable, and it makes sense in going forward. And it's nice if people call on that point to make their own observations and suggestions, because when it comes to it at some point, if it does, you have varying ideas which will help anybody who's involved in it to say, look, we are listening to the people, they're making suggestions, which is very representative. That is what you want. So it's good to do that,
yeah. Okay, well, Francis, we have to say thank you very much, and
my pleasure.
We really learned quite a lot from you, and I'm sure the listeners have picked up something valuable from what you have contributed here this evening, and also what you did with Matt earlier in the week. So we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep hope alive, and our human resource, wherever you are, they are, we need to ensure that they're involved for the good and the benefit of the rest of us here in Dominica. We need to work together, and as I said, let's don't do things because my party there.
That's correct.
And when my party come, I will hit the other party. Let's do things for the country, that everybody in the country can benefit. At the end of the day, party comes, party goes, but the people remain.
People come, people
go. And the country remains, and so on. So thank you very much. God bless you. And
thank you for having me, and good luck to you guys.
A pleasure, man. Same here. Thank you. Yes. Hello, good evening.
Hey, Basso, good evening.
Yes, same to you. Yes.
I'm listening to the show, but let me just say that I know time have gone, but this dishing out of money, that this present government is just dishing out money in Dominica like this. They have a plan. They know that's the end of it, and they want to stay in power. I say this because a few years ago, right, the political parties on Tortola used to cook a lot of food when they have in their campaign, and the governor stopped them. They said, no, you can't do that. That's right, people, and they had to stop.
Yes.
So we need something like that in Dominica, man. Unless that happens, this is problem.
Yes. No. Thank you very much for calling, and I should thanks. I should make the point too that people should not feel the responsibility of managing a democracy and let it produce for the good of all is only that of the parties, the political parties. It has to be part of the voters must be involved, the bar association must be involved, the youth must be involved, the farmers group must be involved. I remember, in the 80s, to the 90s, everybody was involved, you know, making statements. I was a member of parliament, parliamentary secretary, and people would meet me. And if they had a grudge about the prime minister, they would say their thing and tell me, Usa di sule usa. There was no fear. No. Nowadays people have to kind of thing. I fear no man, you know, said the man above. And so
Johnson, when you understand the country and its development, you as a leader give everybody the opportunity to let you know how they see development. Remember the policy review committee?
Yes.
Every registered organization used to come. The bar association, the private sector, the unions, and they made their presentations on national issues, a policy measure so the country would, when a decision is made, the whole country understands what direction we're going in. But right now, you just hear him get up one Friday morning and decide he going to Sufra and this is what he wants to do, and next time he goes somewhere. And you don't run a country that way. For instance, we mentioned earlier on about Maduke and Montferrat. But the investigations coming out is these passports were issued, the diplomatic passports were issued to one Montferrat to get him to evade arrest in Malaysia, and Maduke, on presentation by Baroness Scotland, I mean, she presented Maduke to the Prime Minister, and she was already in trouble when she was issued the passport.
No, she has been haunted.
Yes. So what sort of administration do we have? And the agents that he called for CBI, they used to advertise, if you're a Dominican citizen, once you're Dominican, you could change your name. It's a very easy thing to change your name. So who are you looking for to change your name when you advertise that? Something is radically wrong with the entire CBI posturing. That is why I've been on the CBS program and their website. If you go to it, some 198 diplomatic passports were recalled, and some 15,000 citizens by investment from Antigua. What is Dominica's program was doing much better. So it means that if the Prime Minister was serious about it, he would have reviewed it. What is he doing? How many diplomatic passports he issued? He doesn't want to tell us. Is it more than 198? Is it more than 500? What it is? He doesn't want to tell. They were advertising the sale of trade attaches, you know, $250,000. You know, as a trade attache, you get a diplomatic passport. How many did they sell? Where are they? And this is the kind of administration we have. And when they talk, they're nonsense. People clap like they're doing so good. They are creating poverty, not wealth. They're destroying the structures of the society, our democratic institutions. And I'm a bit, you know, I mean, I see that we as a people need to take back this country and to ensure that our democratic institutions are rebuilt, as the caller said, and that local government authorities are given the level of autonomy and training and education for self-respect, so the people can develop their communities in a way that development, true development, can come to the people, rather than eking or begging or posturing to get handouts. You know, that's not how you run a country.
For example, I think people who go to these meetings should challenge the Prime Minister and the ministers when they're talking nonsense. For example, the Prime Minister said, I think in Peel Savan, that this is the first government that gave assistance after a storm to non-banana farmers.
Maguisa.
And I mean, if you're sitting there as a banana farmer,
without help,
you're supposed to say that is not true.
That's not true.
Now, Henry George, Rupert Sorendu, and these guys who were ministers,
even the President, Charles Savary,
should not feel comfortable with that.
They don't feel comfortable, but they're afraid to talk.
But what you're afraid of?
They're afraid to answer. They're getting money, you know.
But you're a big man.
No, they want more money.
So
they're getting money.
So when
last year about Charles Savary, you'll hear him when the Parliament is going to him, you'll hear him come with his fancy speech, and people will listen to him. But now Dominicans know he's a hypocrite. He's a greedy man. He's a selfish man.
Yes, because the point I'm making, if you sit in there, and I told one of them that history have to record the contribution you made. And what we're doing really, those of us who are left in the party there, is to ensure that you're highlighted for the contribution you made. And you sit there because they give you a security thing, because they give you something. And you don't say, well, you're not talking the truth. You know, we have callers coming in, but we have to go in a while because... Hello, good evening. Do that quickly. You have much time. Sorry to rush you, but you haven't much time at all.
Yeah, John Sebastian, good evening.
Yes.
Let me tell you something, sir.
Yes.
Any minister of government that make a mistake to challenge the prime minister in any meeting whatsoever, he knows fully well it's a bottle of Lubia water he's going to get in his
head. But the point is, look at something. You had in St. Kitts, I just want to St. Kitts, a smaller place than us. You had Sam Kando and you had Timothy Harris, who was ministers in the Labour Party government under Denzel Douglas. Then, while Sam was at his home, not some Christian here, Sam Kando in St. Kitts, he heard the Prime Minister was reshuffling and he had taken away part of his ministry to do with national security. He just called and said, just take everything. Because why I'm not being consulted? Take everything. And the both of them resign. You know what Timothy ended up today? He's Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Because he took a stand for what is right.
And people can see that. Yeah.
He's Prime Minister, and Sam Kando today he had lost his seat, but he's a high official in the government and so forth. So when you take stand today for what is right, the reward will come.
The reward will come. You allow a prime minister to just bulldoze you, to give you something. I mean, that's ridiculous. These are not men.
Because as the caller said,
not men.
If that's what if they're afraid of getting Lubia water in their head, if I was the prime minister, I would give them not even Lubia water. I would use a glass bottle water. Hello, good evening.
Bosso and the rest, good evening.
Yes.
Good evening. First government that is involved in corruption, bubble, prostituting, raping and selling the resources of the country. Can you imagine crooks and criminals all over the world have Dominica passports? And finally, those former ministers of government who serve under Eugenia Charles with distinction, they sit down there because they're getting crumbs from the table. And when Skerrit makes statements and say first government that give assistance and so forth, they sit down and they're clapping. These people, they don't worth anything. You know they work for the people of this country. The present ministers of government saying they're not living like Sir Brian Ali, they're not living like the Freedom Party who left poor. But the Freedom Party came to serve, and they serve with distinction. That's why they cannot point a finger at us. And our track record is clean and clear compared to what we have there now. Bubble is.
Thank you.
God bless.
Yeah, as the caller made the point there quickly, I remember when they were talking about the president, electing the president, I was in Eliud time, and the Prime Minister, Sir Brian Allen, gave a legal opinion on the matter. Now, Austria, I don't blame Austria, because Austria, what you say? You don't give what you have. Or you say, no,
you don't give what you don't have.
What you don't have, right. So Brian made the point. Rather than come on the radio and say, well, we seek legal advice, and this is how we took, that's what we got, and that's why we took the decision. That's what people learn. You know, he said he came on the radio, like what he called himself, and he said Sir Brian Allen must go and sit down in his toilet and stay there. And people who serve with Sir Brian Allen as ministers of government who are laborites today said one word, you know. I mean, I can't believe, to be honest with you, I can't believe that these are people that you sat with for 50 years and you thought they were respectful. You know, these guys, you could consider, wait a while. I don't think that is, I mean, when they call them, remember there was a time they call a meeting with all former Freedomites, because the election was coming up and they said they wanted to discuss Miss Charles' birthday. All of a sudden they remember Miss Charles. So they invited everybody, they invited me, I didn't go. Then they ask, as far as the continent they wanted Bosso there, so they keep asking, but where's Bosso? Well, I think so. This, well, they didn't. I told the group I was not going, so Mr. Brian Allen go, Alan Guy went and so on. And Alan Guy and Brian Allen told the Prime Minister that the statement he made about Judith Festina was wrong. They said that right there. So these are men that you can rely on for truth and for sincerity and honesty. The others sat there as if, well, me, I don't say nothing. I say nothing.
But I will lose my
my bowl will lose my will lick my soup. My soup will fall out. But time will tell. According to what said that?
Laban. This is time will tell.
So, gentlemen and lady, I think we had a fine time here. We want to apologize to the callers who did not get the opportunity to call because we had Francis who made some very, very important input here. So let's quickly close up. Dr. Christian, just...
well, I shall say, the institutions of government, as we said, have been, the democratic institutions have been totally compromised. And it's a horrible situation, but we are going to continue to work very strongly to restore Dominica. And the one caller talked about we have to focus on electoral reform. We have been focusing on electoral reform very consistently, but we also have to try to win the hearts and minds of people, and that's what we're doing in restoring the party. We have people who, the electoral commissioners, some of them have absolutely no shame. We know what the agenda is. They just want to maintain the status quo at all costs. They are totally obstinate. They are hardy, and we have to find some way to bypass them. So the good news is that we're going to let freedom ring. And we are coming together in a big way to revitalize our organization August 6th, and you have a part to be there. And we're going to see some good new opportunities for Dominica in the future.
Something like quickly.
Well, Bosso, what is quickly now?
Because
we are late. Yes, it's true, but I think our listeners have heard enough tonight. They have got some food for thought. They have listened to callers. A lot of people don't call in because they feel their voice can be recognized and they do not want their jobs to be jeopardized or their children or what have. We can appreciate that, but I want to tell you too, you have to remember you are Dominican and you have to stand for your right. Don't let nothing come in your way to prevent you from talking. Whoever recognize once you speak the truth. Once you're speaking the truth, don't be afraid of anything. And I know lots of listeners are there listening. You may have a daughter, a son who is in a position. Talk to him. Tell him you have the daily bread. But when the day comes for election, make sure you vote the Dominica Freedom Party. And continue talking about freedom. Tell people what Freedom Party has done. Because a child of 30 years and 35 years can't give you the history of the Dominica Freedom Party. You can do it, parents. So do it. Build your country. When your country rise, you will rise. When your country falls, you will fall. We want to rise. And the only party who has been honest, sincere, transparent, it is the Dominica Freedom Party. Support your party. Be there on Sunday, the 6th of August. Just come with all your strength, all your might. Don't worry, who see you, what they say. You are in charge of your country and you want to take hold of your country.
Yes.
We will wait for you. Be there. The Dominica Freedom Party is waiting and counting on you.
Yes, indeed.
Johnson, just to close up, I just want to endorse what Annette said and for me to ask all Dominicans all Dominicans who are concerned about Dominica must come forward and decide for themselves what they want and how they want Dominica to move. And the Dominica Freedom Party is positioned itself to give the necessary leadership to give an open, transparent government that will meet all the development goals set, especially those the development goals that were set the United Nations, that we signed this charter and we're not fulfilling them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies, and to our listeners, we say thank you. Have a good night rest. See you next Wednesday, God's willing. We want to again thank the management and staff of this radio station, Q95 FM Radio, the big station, and of course to all our callers and our listeners all over the globe. We say good night and God bless you.
God bless you indeed.
God bless Dominica.